Florida is often sold as paradise, blue beaches, theme parks, and cities that never sleep. But behind that image, there is another Florida that is rarely talked about, a Florida that has been left behind. Small towns that once lived off sugarcane, timber, railroads, and factories, then slowly lost their reason to survive. In a state that keeps gaining population, there are places that are shrinking, stagnant, or completely dead. Some are still breathing, trapped in poverty and single industry economies. Others have already become ghost towns, empty, silent, leaving behind only signboards and old stories. In this list, we're not only talking about towns that are already dead, but also those that are on their way there. First on the list is Fort Meade, one of Florida's oldest towns, founded in 1849 as a military outpost deep in the interior. Today, the town is still home to about 5,300 people, with a small downtown that looks neat and historic. On the surface, Fort Meade appears stable, but stable doesn't always mean safe. Its economy relies heavily on the phosphate industry, a sector that has long been the backbone of Polk County. The problem is that this industry no longer absorbs as much labor as it once did. Many modern jobs are located in nearby larger cities like Lakeland or Tampa, forcing younger residents to commute or move away permanently. Fort Meade isn't dying yet, and it's far from a ghost town. But without economic diversification and new attractions, it risks becoming a town that still exists, while slowly losing its reason to be lived in. If Fort Meade is still holding on through history and relative stability, Frostproof represents the next stage, a town that is alive, but going nowhere. Located in Polk County with a population of around 3,500, Frostproof was born out of citrus farming optimism. Its name was even chosen to convince investors that the area was safe from frost, a claim that didn't fully hold up. For decades, oranges were the backbone of the local economy. But since the late 20th century, citrus greening disease, extreme weather, and the collapse of small farmers have weakened the sector. Those who remain are mostly older residents, living off limited local jobs or retirement income. Frostproof hasn't lost its function as a town. Schools, City Hall, and the community still exist. Moving on from stagnating Frostproof, Pahokee is an example of a small town that is still alive administratively, but economically fragile and heavily dependent on a single sector. Located on the shores of Lake Okeechobee, the town has a population of about 5,800 people, yet the average household income in Pahokee is far below Florida's state average. Census data shows a median household income of around $32,000 per year compared to Florida's median, which is close to $60,000. For decades, Pahokee's economy has relied on sugarcane and related agricultural industries. When sugar prices fluctuate or agribusiness policies change, the impact is felt immediately in local employment, and so far, there has been little economic diversification to replace it. Belle Glade is a larger and more complex version of the same problem. Located in Florida's Sugar Belt, Belle Glade is home to around 17,000 residents and serves as an agricultural center around Lake Okeechobee. On paper, the town appears active, but its economic numbers tell a different story. The median household income in Belle Glade sits at around $35,000 per year, far below Florida's average. Poverty rates are high, and many jobs are seasonal, tied to the sugarcane cycle. When harvest season ends, job opportunities dry up as well. Like Pahokee, Belle Glade's economy is barely diversified, making it extremely sensitive to changes in agribusiness and labor policies. Belle Glade isn't dying, and it's clearly not a ghost town, but it exists in survival mode, not growth. If Belle Glade feels fragile due to its size and structural poverty, South Bay shows a quieter version of the same issue. This small town, also within the Lake Okeechobee area, has a population of about 5,200 and lives almost entirely off sugarcane farming and related work. There are no truly significant alternative industries. South Bay is in a difficult position. Median household income hovers in the mid-$30,000 range per year, well below Florida's average. Many jobs are physically demanding, seasonal, and low-paying. When the harvest ends, economic activity slows with it. This pattern severely limits social mobility, especially for younger generations. South Bay is not a dead town. Local government still functions, and the community still exists. Greenville represents the next phase, a small town slowly being abandoned, not because of a single major disaster, but because of a lack of future prospects. Located in Madison County, Greenville is now home to only about 800 people. The town once relied on agriculture and small-scale local activity. Today, almost all of that has faded. Greenville is under serious pressure. Local job opportunities are extremely limited, and almost no new sectors are emerging. As a result, young people leave first, leaving behind an increasingly aging population. Greenville is still officially a town. City Hall still stands, and its name remains on the map. But many properties sit empty, economic activity is minimal, and town life feels thin and fragile. From Greenville, which is slowly being left behind, McIntosh feels like a town frozen in the past. Located in Marion County, McIntosh is home to only about 500 residents. It once lived as a railroad stop and a small agricultural community. Today, its function as a town is almost entirely symbolic. McIntosh is in a state of extreme stagnation. Median household income sits in the low $30,000 per year, and local job opportunities are very limited. There are no major industries and no new economic centers. Many residents who remain rely on work outside the town or fixed incomes such as pensions. McIntosh is not dead. City Hall still stands. Its name is still on the map, and its small community endures. But its pulse is weak. If McIntosh barely pulses, Aripeka feels like a town detached from the flow of time. Located along the Gulf Coast, this tiny area stretches across Hernando and Pasco counties and is home to only about 250 people. Aripeka was once a fishing and logging community. When those industries faded, the town never truly found a replacement. As a small and partly unincorporated area, its economic data is mostly estimated. Still, figures suggest median household income falls in the low to mid $30,000 to early $40,000 per year range, with almost no local job opportunities. Many residents depend on pensions, remote work, or long commutes. Aripeka is not a ghost town. Homes are still occupied, nature is beautiful, and the community is quiet. But it exists in economic and geographic isolation. Unlike Aripeka, which is isolated by nature, White Springs is trapped by its own history. Located in Hamilton County, the town now has around 700 residents. In the late 19th century, White Springs was a well-known spa town, thriving on health tourism and railroad access. When travel trends changed and rail lines were abandoned, the town lost its primary purpose. Economically, its condition is fragile. Median household income is around $35,000 per year, far below Florida's average. Local job opportunities are very limited, mostly in small service businesses, local government, or seasonal work. No new industry has truly replaced its past prosperity. Without a new economic role, White Springs stands on a thin line between a historic town and a future ghost town. Orlo Vista is sinking precisely because of its closeness to a major city. Located in Orange County, just west of Orlando, Orlo Vista is home to around 7,000 people. Geographically strategic, yet socio-economically left behind. The area grew rapidly after World War II, then stalled as the surrounding regions surged ahead much faster. Orlo Vista's economy faces serious pressure. Median household income sits at around $40,000 per year, well below the far more prosperous Orlando metro average. Many jobs are low wage, homeownership rates are low, and resident turnover is high. Young people with options usually leave. Orlo Vista is an example of a town slowly eroded by the city around it. Not dead, but gradually losing appeal, investment, and long-term prospects. If Orlo Vista is worn down by a major city, White City is an example of a small town overlooked by development altogether. Located in St. Lucie County, White City is a census-designated place with a population of about 4,000. Geographically, it sits between Fort Pierce and Port St. Lucie, two areas that have grown far more rapidly. White City's problem isn't emptiness, but structural lag. Median household income is around $45,000 per year, still below Florida's average and that of surrounding areas. Local job opportunities are limited. Most residents work outside the community, and infrastructure investment moves slowly. Many residential areas appear stagnant year after year. White City is clearly not a ghost town, but it represents a pattern of communities stuck on the margins of progress, without an economic center of their own. If regional living costs rise without new opportunities, White City risks gradual population decline, not through collapse, but through quiet abandonment. Unlike White City, which is still holding on, Pine Level is an example of a town that is functionally finished. Located in DeSoto County, Pine Level once served as the county seat in the late 19th century. But when that status was moved to Arcadia in 1888, the town's fate was effectively sealed. Economic activity vanished, residents left, and Pine Level began to empty out. Today, Pine Level's population is only around 100 people. There is no city government, no economic center, and no meaningful household income to measure, because there is no active community. What remains are old cemeteries, historical markers, and open land slowly reclaimed by nature. Pine Level is a pure ghost town, a clear example of how administrative decisions and the loss of political function can erase a town from lived reality, even without war, disaster, or economic collapse. Pine Level disappeared after losing its administrative role, while Mansfield collapsed alongside a single industry. Located in DeSoto County, Mansfield grew in the early 20th century as a company town entirely dependent on the turpentine and pine lumber industry. Every aspect of life, homes, stores, even churches, was built to serve that industry. When the turpentine industry collapsed in the 1930s due to overexploitation and market changes, Mansfield had no backup plan. The factory closed, jobs vanished, and residents left almost simultaneously. Rather than shrinking slowly, Mansfield emptied quickly and permanently. There is no household income, no government, and no economic activity. What remains are fragile structures, old railroad tracks, and historical signboards. Mansfield fell fast, but Sumatra faded almost without a trace. Located in Liberty County, Sumatra emerged in the early 20th century as a lumber and turpentine town. Like many small Florida towns of that era, it lived entirely off the exploitation of surrounding pine forests. The problem was simple but fatal. Once the timber was gone, the town had nothing left. There was no economic diversification, no alternative trade routes, and no reason for residents to stay. By the 1920s, the industry stopped. Within a short time, people moved away and buildings were abandoned. Sumatra vanished quietly, while Ellaville collapsed and left its remains clearly visible. Located in Suwannee County, at the confluence of the Suwannee River and the Withlacoochee River, Ellaville was once a fairly prosperous lumber town in the late 19th century. Its location was strategic for timber transport, and the town once had hotels, schools, and churches. Its foundation, however, was fragile. One industry meant one shared fate. When the sawmill industry collapsed in the early 20th century, Ellaville's economy fell with it. Residents left, businesses closed, and the town slowly emptied. There was no diversification and no recovery. Today, Ellaville has no permanent residents. It is an open ghost town, not just a name, but physical proof of how a town can die when its economy is exhausted.